typically ends at like 4. It starts going down at 4, 5ish. All right, we
Mm.
are live.
Hey, welcome everybody. We are live, and this will also be available in about a week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that fun stuff. But
Amazon,
welcome, Amazon Music, all that good things,
all
right?
those.
And this is a new adventure for Megan and I. For the last year, we were working on the Burning Compass podcast, and we both kind of outgrew those topics and outgrew everything on that level of it. And we shifted over and we created the Inner Child, Outer Adult podcast, where we wanted to really connect with each other and you guys on the level of just re-parenting and re-identifying your inner child and being able to still make those adult decisions and adult choices while honoring yourself and your inner child. And it's just something that both of us have really navigated through many adventures in our life and through many different experiences that we've had, both good and bad, even long and short experiences that we have all been through. But we have a wonderful podcast for you guys. If you know, so hang with us, bear with us. We have brain fart on that one. Go blank for a second. So we have many different topics that we want to cover throughout the season in the different episodes of Inner Child and Outer Adult. And today we wanted to really connect and reconnect where we disconnected from our inner child and where we started kind of reconnecting with our inner child. So in the beginning, we're going to be talking about the disconnect, the fallout, and then we're going to cover a couple personal stories that we both have experienced where we felt like we really disconnected from our inner child. And then we're going to jump into bridging the divide of the inner child and the outer adult. And then we want to reconnect with me. And when I say me, I mean like myself, yourself, Megan. Would connect with ourselves on that level of really understanding the balance and duality of the two. And then we have something very fun. So if you guys hang out with us until the end, then we have a nice little surprise for you guys at the very end of this. So, and that surprise
Yeah.
will carry over into next episode as well.
Yes. Well, and plus it was through the course of our conversations, like we figured out that whole process of like reconnecting with that self, that youthfulness, that inner child aspect is like really at the heart of a lot of like our personal experiences and the experiences of people that we know and people that we're working with. And so it was important. We were like, yeah, okay, this is where we're being called, so here we are.
For real. Because a lot of times we take the inner child and we lock them away in their room when we go into adulthood and we don't let them come out because we're too focused on adult responsibilities.
Well, and
Not
there's
real.
many reasons that happens too. So it's like
Absolutely.
that disconnect piece. There's so many reasons that it can happen. Like just growing up. I mean, yeah, life requires you to kind of table that a little bit at specific times, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that part of you has to go away entirely, because it's actually really important to like who you are and driving your creativity and your passion and your curiosity and just having fun and enjoyment in your everyday life.
And one thing I've noticed and recognized when I'm in more of a positive headspace and really connect with my inner child, having fun with myself, having fun with my kids, I find that I feel healthier. I
Mm.
feel happier. I have much more energy. And honestly, I feel I lose weight faster when I do that as well. I've noticed that over piecing cycles in my life together. That's the one thing I've realized. When I really disconnect from my inner child, even as an adult, I get depressed and gain weight. But when I reconnect, I become happy and I lose the weight again. I'm motivated and I find those things in myself. So, if you guys are going
Well,
through these moments of disconnect, that's normal your whole entire life to disconnect and reconnect.
well, yeah, because I mean, you can't be a kid all the time. I mean, obviously,
No.
at a certain point, you do have to grow up. You have adult responsibilities. You become a parent, and all of a sudden, you're raising these other little people, and like that's really important. But like when you're working on your relationship with them, still having that connection becomes super important, because like what part of you is engaging with them when they're, mom, come play with me, dad, come play with me, come color with me, come, like, that's not necessarily the adult aspect of you. That's the kid in you that's still there, that's going, yeah, board game, like.
Right? That's like today I was sitting here working on the material for tonight's podcast, and I was really into it. And I had like my computer out, my phone out, my notebook out, my pen out, and I'm like going to town on everything and just thinking and in my own zone. And then uh, earlier, Carly and I, before I actually got into it, earlier Carly and I actually went to the library. We had to return some books and some movies,
Mhm.
but at the library you can pick up these Steam kits. And I don't
Oh
know if you've
yeah.
seen those. Yeah, so she got one that was for bug collecting. And I was
Oh.
like, all right, cool. And so we got home and I was working on it. And when she comes to me and she's like, hey, can we go outside and catch some bugs? And I was like,
Just don't
man,
catch bees.
right? We
I
have some
made that
really
mistake when my dad got me like a bug catching kit as a kid. Like I caught a bunch of bees in the front yard, and I felt so bad because we kind of had to let them get sick before we let them go so they wouldn't attack me.
oh dang. We have some jumping spiders out here that were really cool. We wanted to
Oh,
find.
those are fun.
Yeah, we couldn't find any though. But I was
Aw.
in the middle of everything and I was really busy. And she comes to me and she's like, "Hey, can we go outside and catch some bugs?" And I'm sitting there thinking it's like 98 degrees out right now. But I'm just there thinking in my head, I was like, she really wants to go catch bugs. And so it's like, I was like, screw it, I'll let the inner child in me come out. So I was like, let's go catch bugs.
Mhm.
So we went out there, and honestly, we couldn't find anything. We found our daddy long legs, and I told her, I was like, "Sweetie, it's probably way too hot out here. They're all probably hiding
They're all
until it cools
hiding. Yeah.
off." I was like, "We'll come back out later."
We're all
You
crazy
know,
humans. What are you doing?
instead they're like, no. And so we came back in, and then she came back to me later, and she was like, again, she asked me, she goes, "Can we go out and catch bugs again?" And I was like, honestly, I was like, it's really hot out right now, and I was like, and I really need to get this stuff done. And I was like, so I need to I need a rain check, basically, is
Yeah.
what I told her. And so, just having that, like, okay, I let the inner adult in me, or inner child in me come out, but then it was like, I still have these adult responsibilities, and I have to work on this stuff.
Hmm.
So it's like I don't just walk out of the house and go to work for 8 hours. Like I work at home like you do. And so it's finding that balance of being the inner child, being the outer adult, and that crazy disconnect of where that happened at in our life.
Yeah, and it happens at different times for everybody and for different reasons. Like it can be
Yeah.
because of trauma, it can be because you were raised by a single parent and you had to help raise your siblings, so you had to grow up real fast, or you had needs that were neglected, because there's specific needs that keep that childlike aspect of you alive and healthy, and like when those needs aren't met, then that aspect is overtaken by that survival mode of, okay, I've got to take care of this myself, and you try and get those needs met, not necessarily in the best ways. um,
Yeah. That is very true, because you do make some very impulsive decisions when you're acting out of a hurt inner child and even a wounded young adult.
mhm,
Honestly, you and Megan came across this article, which was um, positive psychology and reparenting your inner child, and it was a really good article. And there's a link in the description if you guys want to read it. I fully recommend it. It's not a real long read, but there is a lot of very pertinent information if this is something you're navigating right now. And even for me, there was quite a bit of things in there that really made me think and made me
yeah,
reflect.
it gave me a lot to chew on about like my personal experience and the ways in which I have started to try and rebuild that connection with myself. Because I don't know about you, but in the last year and a half or so, like building that reconnection has been super vital to overcoming like some of my personal challenges that I've
Yeah.
accumulated over the course of lots of interesting events. So.
Same here. A lot of challenges. And this last year, honestly, has been a lot of emotional challenges for me
Oh, yes.
about because it's been reparenting my inner child. This
Hmm.
I've been doing it for a while, but this last year has been really heavy, and the universe has put a lot of experiences in my path, so I
Yeah.
would actually recognize my inner child and stop trying to operate out of my own personal insecurities and letting those
Yeah.
insecurities hold me back from not really just jumping into my future of what I want it to be and trusting myself to just do it
Yeah.
without the judgment of everything else, because we'll get put into certain situations, predicaments, environments that will challenge us, you know?
Yeah. And it's a journey to build that bridge, like, back to yourself, and even
Yeah.
to, like, recognize that that disconnect is there to begin with, and that it's important to build it back.
Yeah.
So we have a slide that we're going to bring up. We pulled out a section of the article, which again is down in the description. It's got some great information to get you started and get you thinking, and some tips on how to start um, rebuilding that connection with yourself. But the part that we wanted to focus on tonight was the 5 commonly neglected needs in childhood. And this really feeds into, like, where that disconnect happens and what the fallout really is when that disconnect is there. So the first one is emotional validation. And so Copley says children require validation of their emotions to develop a healthy sense of self awareness and emotional regulation. When emotional needs are neglected, children may struggle to understand and express their feelings, leading to difficulties in forming secure attachments and coping with stress. So where does that hit for you? Like, where on your journey did you recognize that, hey, my emotions may not have been entirely validated the way that I needed them to be? Because I know, like, that one for me, I was like, oh yeah, ding, bullseye. Like,
Oh, for sure. On this, I would say this one hit me at a very young age, because the self-awareness and the emotional regulation is what I myself neglected when I was a child too. And I say that on the self-awareness was I did some things that probably weren't the best choices when I was
mhm,
like in middle school, high school. So my self awareness of the repercussions of it just really weren't there because I wasn't fully emotionally developed at that point, because
yeah,
they're just it was neglected at that moment. And what's important is, like, none of this goes to blame of like the parent, right? We don't put blame on our parents. We don't put blame on ourselves for any of this. And I just kind of want to clear that before we go too far, because it's very important that we just realize that everybody did the best that they could with what they had, and the tools that they had were not the tools that we have, which is why it's much different now, and that's why we're breaking these generational traumas so we can really move forward,
it's this
and
understanding that you come to of, like, okay, yeah, my parents may not have done the best of jobs, or they may not have done it in the way that I needed it, but my story is what it is. They
yeah.
knew what they knew, and I don't have to hate them or hold it against them to understand that they did their best and I still got hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And the so for me with this too, the emotional regulation, I was in a lot of fights when I was in school. I
Mm,
would get angry a lot. So for me, it was anger. I had a lot of anger attached to me through my emotional regulation, and I let the anger make a lot of choices in my life and also speak for me many
yeah,
times, which is for me where this hit. And I was like, oh, that makes sense about the emotional like validation, because you're always looking at everybody to be validated through like people pleasing, because you
yeah,
want to have that happy emotion. You don't want to get angry, but then you lose it so fast because you just don't know how to recognize the emotion, understand the emotion, and just let it process and allow yourself to just not react with the emotion,
yeah.
and so the secure attachments and the coping with stress that came into like drinking, even some I like weed, you know So, it's like you have these coping mechanisms, but then also intimacy could be a
Mhm.
coping with stress. It can be a coping mechanism as well. So
Yeah.
there's many different levels of it itself.
It started pretty young for me too. I mean, I had some really significant trauma start happening when I was little, and then things were not okay at home. Mom and dad split up really early, so there was a lot of, you know, feeling unsure and insecure about like where I stood and where I fit in, and so there was a lot of fear that would get pent up, and not knowing how to handle like the emotions and the feelings and the things that were going on around me and inside, and not knowing how to express them appropriately. And so it was like I would bottle it up, and then it would come exploding outward when I couldn't bottle it up anymore, particularly as a teenager. Like it got really bad at that point. When I was younger, I was pretty good about keeping the lid on it and just not telling anybody. But as I got older, especially, once that little magic word of puberty hit, like that was it, man. Like the lid on that bottle became harder and harder to hold in place. So
Do you think that that's where your for you, like that transition emotionally happened, was like when puberty kicked in, and then
that was definitely when things got more challenging than they had been before. Like I was already
yeah,
struggling by the time I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I was having a hard time fitting in socially at school, and relating to other people, and building that secure attachment in my relationships, because I was just generally like mistrustful. And but yeah, when I hit that stage of, puberty and teenager and all the extra things that come along with adolescence, like that was when it got pretty bad.
yeah. When you're younger, you're only. I think you're um, the emotions that you experience are a little limited in
Hmm.
some ways, right? Because you experience happiness, you experience sadness, and you do experience some pain when you fall, get hurt, cut a tooth, things like that.
Yeah.
But, in those younger years, you don't always understand it, but you turn to mom and dad to help them, because for them to help you navigate through it, go through it.
Right.
But emotionally and mentally, you're just more mentally, you're just not able to process what these emotions mean in many ways. And
Sorry, guys.
the older you get, the more you understand what emotions are, what emotions do, how
Yeah.
emotions affect you. And then when you go into the puberty stage, you now not only experience the emotions mentally, right? But you also are experiencing the emotions within your sacral center, right? So you're
Yeah.
experiencing them up high and down below. So you're getting these urges, and these urges make you want to go in certain directions, make certain decisions, which brings on a lot of disconnect throughout the time.
Yeah, and if you haven't been taught that resiliency and how to process those really tough, confusing emotions, then when you do get to that stage where you've got like, the urges and the temptations and the social expectations and everything else that gets piled on when you hit that stage of growing up, it becomes so much more difficult to try and navigate that. The second uh commonly neglected need was unconditional love and acceptance. And the quote is, every child deserves to feel unconditionally loved and accepted for who they are. When this need is neglected, children may develop feelings of unworthiness and insecurity, impacting their self esteem and their ability to form healthy relationships throughout their lives.
Yeah. For me, this one kind of, like, it goes hand in hand with the emotions too,
It does.
right? Because
Yeah.
we want, and a lot of times when we do things like the insecurities, the self-esteem, and the feeling of unworthiness, for me, the way I see it is we want to make ourselves emotionally feel better. And
Hmm.
so we do these things, these, I'm going to say, guilty pleasures, to make ourselves emotionally feel better. And when we as parents can be there for our children in a way of showing unconditional love and even acceptance, what's important is when they do it wrong, when they
Yeah.
get in trouble, or when they do something that you need to redirect them or reparent them or recoach them on so they understand it. What I have realized, especially with my kids, is it's so important to approach it with unconditional love and acceptance so they understand you're going to make mistakes in your life. And I don't
Oh
care how
yeah.
old you are, you're still going to slip up.
But I
So,
still love you. Like
but I still
you're
love
gonna
you.
make mistakes. Making mistakes and screwing up is human, but I still love you, and that love and my, you know, desire to have that relationship with you is is not going to change. That
Exactly.
was something that was really hard for me growing up because I grew up in some family systems that were pretty. Yeah, they weren't nice.
There's a
They
lot of
were.
love with conditions.
Yeah, there was. And
Yeah.
and love was something that you earned. That love and
Yeah.
acceptance, like you had to earn it. And so that really impacted like my perception of all relationships moving
Yeah.
forward. It turned me into a massive people pleaser because I'd been programmed from the get-go that if I wanted someone to like me, I had to give something up or do something in return, which set me up for so many problems and so
Yeah.
many situations that were incredibly painful and that I didn't really have a whole lot of guidance on how to navigate or get out of. And so that is something that I pay like extra special attention to. You know, when I do have that conflict with my kids, I'm like, you screwed up.
Yeah.
We got into an argument. We had a falling out. There are 7 different people in our home, 7 very different people. We are not going to get along or do things perfectly at all. But it does not change how much I love you or how important
Yeah.
you are to me. And like, that's not going to go away.
And what's important to know too is just because when the unconditional love part of it, right? When we go into these moments where we feel that we are in this space of like we're not being loved if we don't perform a certain way or do a certain thing, then like let's just go with our parents. Partners, I'm going to kind of push out because I think partners are a whole different realm when it comes to that part, unconditional love. But
Yeah,
when it
that's it's a
comes to
stepping stone you build up to. Like,
yeah, and when it comes to parents, though, I still firmly believe in many cases, not all, but in many cases, your parent still loves you when it feels unconditional. They do. They just don't know how to express it when they also are coming down on you. They
yeah,
only know love or disappointment. And so those are the only two they hold, but just because they're showing that form of disappointment doesn't mean they don't love you, but it's also not healthy whatsoever to put that on a child who doesn't understand that, and they literally only understand love or disappointment. They don't understand the, oh, I made a mistake, I need to learn
yeah,
from this, grow from this, and not do it again. But chances are I'm a child, so I'm going to do it 3 4 5 times before I understand what you're truly telling me. And it's
yeah,
about how we sit there as a parent, how we sit there and tell our children like it's okay, like you're learning, you're growing, but it's also important that we don't let those be excuses that they is why they keep doing it over and over and over and aid them in that disability to not grow within themselves as well. So
right.
it's that balance.
It's like when my husband and I are dealing with a situation that's occurred that, you know, rises up with one of our kids, as it inevitably does, because there is no guidebook for parenting or,
No.
you know, or even growing up. It's all, unfortunately, you know, learn as you go. But like, you know, we'll have to have those conversations where we're like, look, we're being stern right now, we're being strict with you, there's going to be a consequence for this because, you know, this was not an okay thing to happen and we need you to really pay attention to this the next time. But it doesn't change how much we love you, and we say those specific words constantly. Even though this
Yeah.
happened, it doesn't change how much we love you. It's our job to teach you, like.
Yeah. And I used to get really upset. Like, and I used to like not give them that ability to make a mistake because I used to be from my, I was conditioned in many ways,
Mm.
but also going through an academy, like the police, like the law enforcement academy, the police academy, you know, those that go through like training, through basic training in the military, things like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, you get conditioned that it has to be perfect
Hmm.
or you're dead. Like that's what they
Yeah,
tell
it's
you.
an
Like
extreme situation.
it is, and so you build this concept and this structure around yourself, thinking that that's how life is. And I was parenting that way. I was parenting from a base of like they were in the academy, and I had such high expectations of them that they never felt like that they could live up to those expectations. Nor did I realize I was putting those on them until one day I finally saw them breaking down, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm asking way too much of you guys.
Yeah.
That's not even fair of me. And so that's, I know for me, where I had this realization that I needed to shift my parenting
Yeah.
because I wasn't accepting them when they were at their lowest. I was trying to raise them up and bring them up as if they were adult and they should have known better, instead of realizing, oh, like wait, this is different. Like
They're not
you need
grown-ups, they're kids.
you
Yeah.
need mentoring. Yeah.
That's a really interesting perspective, because I had a parent that have a parent that was military and law enforcement as well, and they could be very authoritative. Like it
Oh
was
yeah.
it was do it right or psh, and that was difficult. So that's an interesting perspective. And it's important to remember, yeah, they are just kids. We were just kids. So there's a
Just
learning curve there.
oh yeah. A side note of how bad I was when Sherry and I first got together. She broke me of this habit, but in my closet, everything was color coordinated and short sleeve, long sleeve pants. Like I had my closet looking tip top, and my shit was ironed. Everything.
See, I try and have my closet that way, and it never stays that way, no matter how bad I want it to. Like
like I would even pair all of my socks together. Like it was like I was that structured. It was just to the
my
fine tune. I made my bed every morning. Like this is I have to do this, and this. Otherwise, I will not succeed in my life.
my
Like
poor
that was
mother shared a room with me for like the majority of my teens and 20s, and she had to put up with my ADHD doom piles everywhere. Like organization was not my forte. It's something that I deeply rely on now. It's something I definitely had to develop.
I got real lax on mine when it came to that, but I still have these like it still drives me crazy. It does. And I like things organized and I like things neat. I like things being taken care of and well
Mhm.
done. But I've
Yeah.
also realized I had to separate from that because I was too obsessed with it. And if
Yeah.
it wasn't like that, then it was wrong.
It
And
doesn't need to look like Holman Gardens. It can be lived in. It just needs to be clean.
yeah, exactly. Which comes into the physical safety and security. And this is important. So, providing a safe and secure environment is essential for children to thrive. And I completely agree with this. So,
Yeah.
neglecting this need can result in feelings of fear, anxiety, and mistrust, hindering a child's ability to explore and engage with the world around them.
Yeah.
So they need to feel safe. They need to feel secure in their environment, or they're going to shelter who they are and they're going to be who you want them to be or what puts them in survival mode. And our kids, if we're in survival mode, don't kid yourself. Your kids are in survival mode as well.
Oh yeah, because they learn from us, and it significantly hinders that confidence to take a risk and take a chance, even on something positive. So,
Absolutely. And I saw that much in my life growing up. I had so many
mhm.
opportunities come my way that I passed up because I was too
Oh,
scared to take it.
oh yeah, no, like totally.
Yeah.
Like there were, I was in choir, and I would never do a solo because I was so afraid to be seen and visible by others. I was much more comfortable being invisible and in the background and the little wallflower, or um, there there were lots of opportunities that I could have gone after and taken advantage and probably gotten if I hadn't had that fear to put myself out there,
Yeah.
because it wasn't safe, it wasn't predictable, it wasn't that anxiety and that mistrust of just any general environment really held me back.
Yeah. And for me, when I grew up, like my parents, I didn't grow up in an unhealthy parental relationship because my parents are still together and they've been together. What, Matt's 40, my brother's 45, so they've been together for like, I think I want to say like 46 years, 47 years.
Yeah.
So they've been together for a while. Um, but I also could see in them where there wasn't a lot of love and affection between the two of them.
Mm.
And I could see that now as an adult. I really see that, and I saw it back then too. But so there was that part that was kind of missing from the, I think, the safety and security of like, we're a family, you
Yeah.
know. But then also where I grew up in Arizona wasn't the healthiest environment or neighborhood.
Mm.
We were the only white family within like a 5 block radius of where we lived at, you know. And so growing up in that struggle of it was difficult. And so we as a family never felt physically safe or secure because of the of our where we lived. So there
Yeah.
was that played a huge part in my childhood as well, which also come into a lot of fights, like a lot of fights, just trying to stand up for ourselves.
Yeah. My parents separated when I was 4, I think almost 5. It was not an amicable separation at all. Um, and then, being raised by a single mom, she was always working her tail off to support the three of us, which meant that funds were limited. So we lived in some neighborhoods that were not the best. Um, and yeah, like knowing that your environment, like your neighborhood in and of itself is not a safe place, and then compound that with things going on at home as well, that security and safety part um was seriously jeopardized.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Because of that, how many times have you yourself lived in those kind of areas uh, throughout your younger years and was okay with it?
I there were some neighborhoods that were better than others, and I didn't notice it as much when I didn't notice it as much when I was younger. But as I got older and started to take more notice of my surroundings and the things that would go on in the neighborhood and different things like that, my anxiety did like start to kick up because, I did recognize, oh, wait, you know, grandma down the street just got her house broken into because they wanted her TV and now she's in the hospital. Oh, dang.
Yes.
I can remember another time, like, I was 19 and I was home alone one night and somebody tried to break into our apartment and my brother never let me stay home alone again. Like, from then on out, my brother was taking me to his friend's house when he went to go hang out with his friends because he's like, no,
Yeah.
no, not anymore.
When I was in high school, I was at school and I was on my way home from school. And when I was on my way home, I got there and the cops were at the house. And of course, 16-year-old me is like, fuck, what did I do? What did I do? Did I do anything to get the cops called? I don't, no, I'm good. I'm good. Like,
It wasn't
wait,
me.
it can't be there for me. It wasn't me. But I'm like, still in the back of my head, I'm like, maybe. Like, it's maybe something I don't remember. So then I get home and come to find out one of the neighborhood kids that we always had issues with, I was always getting in fights with, broke into our house. But
Oh,
he broke into our house when my mom was still there. And so and then when he got in, he was like, "Oh, is Josh here? I was just seeing if Josh was home."
you know,
You,
likely story.
you and Josh don't even get along. Like, what do you mean? So she called the cops before he even got in the house. But by the time he got in the house, realized, oh, like, I got screwed up.
Yeah.
They came, the cops showed up, they arrested him, and he apparently broke into like 3 other houses prior to that. So even that sense of security, like you were saying before, with the lady, the grandma down the road, you still have that too. And of course the emotional anger in me waited till he got released from juvie, and I went and found him and beat him up again because it was like, dude, you're not gonna break into my damn house. I'm gonna teach you a lesson to not come
Yeah.
back. And so it's like you go through those moments, but it's still, it creates that insecurity, and
Yeah.
you don't feel safe. But I also, before we jump to the next topic real quick, I felt that, even for me as I got older, I was even less in fear of living in those sorts of environments which I came to find out was not very healthy when you live in a very potential violent area and you're not scared. That is
Yeah,
actually very
that's
dangerous.
a whole other problem.
Yeah.
That's if you don't recognize a sense of danger because you've been desensitized to it, that's a whole other set of problems.
Which also probably helped me with when I was in law enforcement too, because I wasn't afraid of crap during that time either, and felt very invincible until a few bullets slow you down, and then you realize that I'm
Yeah.
not so invincible after all. Like that hurts. It's like I'm not Superman; it doesn't ricochet off me; it goes in me.
Right.
So
I am the kryptonite. Like, it's all bad.
exactly.
The fourth neglected need is stability and consistency. Children thrive on routine and predictability as it provides them with a sense of stability and security. When this need is neglected, children may struggle with feelings of chaos and uncertainty, leading to difficulties in regulating emotions and behaviors.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. This one actually even hit me really. They all hit me hard. All of them
Yeah,
did.
I can connect on some level with all of them, honestly.
This one I completely agree with. If we don't have a stable home for our children to be in, and if they don't have some form of consistency in their life, then their whole life will be chaotic, and they'll also struggle making choices in their life too.
Yeah.
And
I remember, like, I think that first form of instability and inconsistency that I really experienced was just the moving back and forth because, my parents were separated. And so it was, the week with mom and dad on the weekends. And just that going back and forth and being torn between one half of my family and the other every week, even though I was always excited to go and see my dad. And I was, always excited to go home and spend time with my mom. Like, just not having one home took a huge impact on me. And then, like, also we moved a lot, like, with living with my mom, different, trying to find, better living, or she'd get a better job somewhere else. We moved a lot. I think between kindergarten and 12th grade I switched schools 19 times for one reason or another. And, like, now, like, even as an adult, like, my husband's like, oh, well, when the kids are grown, let's just sell everything and get a motorhome and go on the road. And I'm like, mm-mm. I love you. I need a home that I know is waiting for me. Like,
oh, we just get a motorhome, keep the home, and go on long
yeah,
vacations.
I'm good with having the motorhome. Let's go on vacation. But I need to have a physical location that I call home, that I know is going to be there waiting for me no matter what. Like, this is a need.
Sherry and I've talked about that too, and it's like she's talked about wanting to go back on the road, and I'm like, I would love to go back on the road, but it's like I don't want to live on the road. It brings a
Yeah.
whole different kind of
Like, I love to travel. I love to go adventure and
yeah.
explore, but, like, yeah,
Like
I need that homestead that I know
go for a month.
is waiting for me. Yeah, like,
Yeah, like I'm good with that even. But I want a home base to come back to,
mhm,
squat on for about 3 or 4 months, or it's like, "Oh shit, it's snowing and 3 degrees outside. I'm gonna go home where it's warm."
light the fire, pull out a book and
Yeah.
some blankets. Like, yeah, I need
Or
I
right
need
now,
that.
it's like 111 degrees outside, and it's like, I want somewhere to go where it's cool and not sitting somewhere where it's roasting all the time, you
Yeah,
know?
blast the AC.
Yeah, so, it's having like, that's very important, we both have been through a stage where it's just you have the instability
Mhm.
in the life, and then you don't have the consistency,
Yeah,
and we both have also, I know, have put some of not all of our children, but some of our children through the same experience. Just from where we disconnected, we reconnected, we've came back.
yeah.
Y
I
and
know, like, yeah, my kids, we've moved a few times for one reason or another. Sometimes it was because we found better living for cheaper somewhere else. For me and my younger boy, in the first few years of his life, things were really chaotic and full of turmoil, while I was trying to find and create a safe environment for him to grow up in. Like, we bounced around between friends' couches, and there was a period where we lived out of our car for a month or two as I was trying to
Yeah.
figure out, how to put our lives together so that I could give him the stability and the consistency that I knew he really needed, having experienced what it was like to have that inconsistency. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
it didn't start out perfect, but I mean, now I would say that the stability and the consistency is pretty solid. I mean, things vary from day to day, obviously, as they will in
Oh yeah.
life, but they have a home, they know, where they come home to, they know that their family's waiting for them, and yeah.
Yeah. And one thing in what's important is even if you do live on the road, it's not unstable either.
Yeah.
Because when for 3 years, we traveled for 3 years.
Mhm.
And one thing I noticed with our kids is when we had a rooftop tent and we had a cargo trailer that we turned into a bathroom and kitchen and storage for ourselves. And when we were living that way and it was just us, we still had stability and consistency because the kids knew you had to set up, you had to do this, you had to do that. Like there was the structure that went with it. Just because our home itself transferred from one place to another and that
Right.
was inconsistent, the fact that they knew that we were going to be traveling and they knew we had to pack up, there was still the consistency.
There was a
And
routine to it.
yeah, exactly. And that I noticed when we were in those moments, their emotions and their behavior were amazing. They were
Yeah.
great. But it was when we came into these other places where we either had roommates or we stayed with somebody, paid rent, had a roommate situation.
Right.
I've noticed that the kids themselves, their emotions and their behavior becomes kind of chaotic and unstable
Yeah.
because you are now living or cohabitating with somebody else that they're not used to. And
Mhm.
so it's not stable nor consistent within their life.
Yeah. That is one thing that I did have in each of my parents' home. Like, each home had its own routine, and so I knew, day to day, basically, what our schedule was going to be. But then again, there was that bouncing back and forth between, okay, at this house we have one routine, and at this house we have another routine. So, and putting that routine in place for my kids has been hugely important too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes a huge difference in itself too. So,
The fifth one is empathy and understanding. Children need adults who can empathize with their experiences and understand their perspective. Neglecting this need can result in feelings of isolation and alienation, as children may struggle to connect with others and express themselves authentically. Providing empathy and understanding helps children feel seen, heard, and valued, fostering healthy emotional development and resilience. That resilience piece again is like so huge because it bleeds over into everything.
it does, and you want them to be able to make their own choices, make their own decisions. Really be able to express themselves, understand who they are, without shutting them down. And there's
Mhm.
a difference between being like empathetic and just being there for them and really being like sympathetic and overly being there for them in those
There's
ways.
a huge difference, and like, sympathy is like seeing their situation but from your perspective. Like, you're still applying your experience, your expectations, your knowledge about like how you would handle that situation, whereas real empathy is taking away all of your own perspective and expectation and really trying to see it from that person's point of view. Like, okay, I know this person well enough that I know that this is possibly what's going on in their head, this is how they might be looking at it, and this is how they're going to perceive it because of their own experiences. And so, how do I support them in that experience that they're having, which for kids is hugely important. Like, they need us to make that leap and not look at it from the perspective of an adult, even though we need to, because we are the parent. But we also need to be able to get down on their level and understand, okay, this is what they're seeing and
Yeah,
this is what they
absolutely.
need from me.
Absolutely, right, and letting them express themselves in that way is important, because they are showing you how they want to be treated, how they want to be cared for, how they need to be talked to, and everybody's different, and everybody does things differently. And if we try to, it goes back to the uniformity of structure too. If we
Hmm.
try to make everybody conform in the same uniform way, it doesn't work. But if we can really sit and listen to what they have to tell us, what's going on, what's happening in their life, or even just let them do the things that the way they want to do it. Like if they want to cook something and they're going to cook it a certain way, let them experience it. Let them
Yeah.
try it. Let them do it and let them experiment with it. And just being understanding that they're finding who they are, they're coming into all of that, and they're really just trying to understand that. And so fostering those healthy emotions are so important, especially going into relationships. You don't want them to people please, to get empathy. You
Right.
don't want them to get angry and fight because you're trying to just be understood or heard. So
Or
it's very
over
important.
empathize. I know that was
Yeah.
that's something that I still struggle with, is over empathizing to the point where I'm not considering like my own needs or my own perspective because I'm so worried about the other person's experience. And um it's I really struggled with trying to figure out how to be me while feeling like who I was expected to be was the complete opposite of who I felt like I was on the inside, and trying to fit that mold. So when
Yeah.
I'm, like working with my kids, I'm constantly reminding myself it's not my job to shape who they are. Who they are already exists. It's my job to help them learn how to be comfortable with who they are, and take that knowledge of themselves out into the world and figure out how to function and create the life they want.
At what point did you realize that you had to make that shift? Did you start realizing this yourself and having to start giving it to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways I think I'm still making that shift because
Yeah.
there's certain things. I mean, just like you said earlier, like this year has been a huge journey about, peeling back more of those layers and figuring out, who I am at my core, as opposed to who I was taught to be or who I felt I was expected
Yeah.
to be. And it's been, again, a trial and experimentation process, but from the very beginning, like raising my kids, I knew that, okay, yeah, my parents did the best they could, but a lot of the ways that things were done did not help me at all. So
Yeah.
I like when I'm approaching interacting with my kids, and I don't always do it correctly. Like I got into an argument with my son yesterday that just like it was not good for either of us, and we both had to go to our separate corners and then come back and go, okay, I'm sorry, I love you. Like,
Let's talk about
but
this.
right. Um, but it's more about, for me, I've always taken the perspective of like, okay, I can recognize this situation from their perspective because I can remember situations like this when I was their age. So at their age, what did I need in this situation that I didn't get? And how do
Yeah.
I figure out how to give that to them now so that I am breaking those chains and breaking those cycles and doing things differently so that they can experience a different reality in growing up than I did?
And that's huge. That's a very good perspective to look at it, because I've done that too. And it's like when you have those moments, same thing. It's like, okay, what do they need, or what can I give them that I didn't get, or why? Because a lot of times when you go through that, you feel for them, and you're like, man, I know
Yeah.
exactly how you feel, and what do I need, or did I need in that moment to help me
Hmm.
through that? And absolutely, I do the same thing when it comes to being there for them on that level of it. Now, again, we're not perfect, and I'm
No.
with you. I'm still growing and learning, and I've come a very long way from where I'm at. And even with the clients, like I'm continuously helping them on their journey as well.
Oh yeah.
But I still know that if I'm having to read, I'm having to learn, I listen to different podcasts, I'm continuously educating myself. But as I'm doing that, I'm making myself better. So that way I can be better for my clients, be better for my family and everyone else too. It's that disconnect is huge. And
Yeah.
for me, I'm going to jump into the quick story part of it, even though I know we kind of been BSing a little bit beforehand.
Yeah, no,
But
go for it.
for me, I saw the big disconnect after reflecting in my life was when I turned 18. And
Mm,
well, even before I was 18, when I was 17, I was looking at being a father at
mhm.
17 years old. And so before before my oldest was born, I turned 18. But to be in perspective, my oldest was at my high school graduation. And so that was where my adulthood began. I was no longer a child going through school. I literally made the cut from, okay, you graduated, great, you have a job, because I'd been working because I did half days at school. So I could go half in the morning, work in the afternoon kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so I was making money, but then it was like, no, I'm going to be a dad. So anything that I wanted, anything childish, anything fun, anything that was going to bring joy into my life was now gone. Like I dismissed it. I let it go because at 17, 18 years old, I'm like, oh my God, I got to work for a living now. That's
Mhm.
all I can do is just work, 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 and grind. And knowing like my life is going to be so much harder and there's nothing I can do. Well, where it spun for me is the baby's mom
Yeah.
is was not helpful. She wasn't helpful one bit. And so it was like having another child at the house,
Mhm.
and I was actually having to wake her up, and because she was a year below me, but
Okay.
I was having to wake her up to get her to school. I was living on my own in my own apartment before I graduated. So
Yeah.
I was even having to get myself up, go to school, graduate, and all of that too. And then when my oldest was born, he was born 2 months early. And so he was like 3 pounds when he was born. And so he's a
Yeah.
preemie. So he spent 2 weeks in ICU. And, and
Oh.
so, yeah, it was like having to work, go to school, be there for my child that I didn't know if he was going to make it or not. She
Yeah.
had all these tubes hooked up to him, had a needle in their head to I think
Oh.
draw blood, but also for other reasons. You could see through
Yeah.
the skin. Being 18 and looking at your child in an incubator, going, I
Is
don't know.
terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And then so it's like when I do bring her home, she's like 3 pounds, not even 4 pounds yet. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
wait a minute, like I don't, and starts crying, is laying on the bed crying. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with. I really don't. And for me, I had to figure it out because any support that I had when it came to parents wasn't there
Yeah.
because they left the day I graduated school, high school. The next day they moved from Arizona to Oregon. They left 2,000 miles away. And so I'm sitting here with this not even 4 pound baby and a wife who is not helpful one bit. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And so that's been my journey for the last
Yeah.
20 years of I don't know what to do,
Mhm.
and so it's like I've had to really figure that out. But I locked my inner child away for
Oh
over
yeah.
20 years because I was the least important thing in the world and in my own life for so long. And it's crazy because after hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, it was that way for so long. And even every time I tried to bring my inner child out, it got shut down and suppressed. And so
Yeah.
it was like, there's no point to this. And so for me, I'm at
Mm.
this stage of like, I need to find my inner child and I really need to do something for him because I know right now he wants to come out. He's tried to come out and I'm not suppressing him anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know how to bring him out to have fun and just enjoy life. And so it's like that was the one thing I was like, I have to find that, and I have to find that as an adult.
Mhm. Yeah, I know for me, I mean, like I said earlier, the trauma that I experienced went on for like 20 something years from like the time I was 5 years old all the way up until like 25, 26, 27. So I started very slowly like shutting her away very early on because I was just in flat out survival mode. I had my mom, like she was my person. I had an aunt that I was very, very close to. And then I had my grandparents that I would go to, even though I was never, I never fully confided in any of them, because even though like they were my people that I went to, I still didn't trust them entirely, because I learned you don't trust anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
And that is how you survive and literally keep staying alive. And
The epitome of survival mode.
right. And I didn't recognize like how much there was to life that I did not understand until I had my son at like 27 years old. I walked out of a horrifically abusive relationship at 3 months pregnant, because I was terrified that either he was going to die in the womb or both of us were not going to make it. Like it was so bad that like the night I walked out, I put my dog in whatever I could grab in the car and called my mother, and it was like, if I don't show up on your doorstep in an hour, you need to come looking for me. Like it was that scary. And then going through the process of giving birth alone. I mean, my parents were there, but I had no partner, and things at home were still, at home were still not the best. But and then all of a sudden I had this baby in my arms, and I was like, "Oh my god, I am in charge of this life form, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And all I know is that he cannot have the same kind of life that I had." And so I started going to therapy, and you get into therapy, and like all these people are talking about, "Oh, your inner child this, your inner child that." And I'm like, "What the crap are you people talking about? When I look in the mirror, all I see is me." Like, or I thought this was like psychiatry. Like, we're not supposed to encourage craziness here. We're supposed to overcome overcome it. Like, I just did not understand the
Yeah.
concept at all, because I was that severely like cut off from that part of myself. And it took probably 4 or 5 years of being in the program that I'm in now, of that just really intense recovery and working on the CPTSD and trying to make reconnections, and finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I can understand the concept. I still can't find her. I don't know where she is. I think she's dead. Like, she
She gone.
she's
Scrambling.
gone. There is no reclamation here. It's just beyond possible. And my therapist was like, "Sweetie, it is totally possible, but you are not looking at yourself in the right light." She's like, "You are an amazing mother. You are empathetic and nurturing and loving towards your kids, and everyone can see it, but you don't treat yourself that way." And
Yeah.
so she was like, "You need to start looking at yourself, especially when you look in the mirror, the same way that you do when you look at your children." And like I struggled with it for a while, still couldn't understand it. And then one morning, like miraculously, I had just gotten a shoebox of family pictures from my cousin. And it was the first box of family pictures other than pictures that I had taken on my phone that I had ever owned. And so I was very excited. And a bunch of the pictures were of me as a little girl. And I was like, "Oh, cool. I'll go through these later," stick them in the closet. They sat there for like, 6 months untouched. And I woke up one morning, and for some strange reason, I have no idea how this picture got out of that shoebox, but there was a picture of me at like 4 or 5 years old on my nightstand when I woke up in the morning. And I picked it up and I just looked at the picture, and it was one of those things where I don't even know how it happened. It just clicked, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, I get it now. I can see her." And then the past several years have been, trying to figure out who she was before everything started, as a way
Yeah.
of trying to remember who I am underneath the anxiety and the programming and the people pleasing and the everything else. Come to find out, have said I'm an introvert for years and years and years. she's actually way more of an extrovert than I would have ever expected. So we're still negotiating on our comfort level with that between her and I.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Like he younger me was definitely more extroverted, and even the adult me is in a lot of ways. Even though I for the longest time I was more introverted
Mhm.
because I sheltered myself and put myself away for a long time.
Yeah.
But
It's
I'm
that
starting to see
protective
where
wall of like, nope,
yeah, didn't want to
keep
talk to
your
anybody,
distance.
didn't want to recognize anything. Yeah, exactly. But now it's like I can find myself in the store talking to people, conversating, just random people even, so I do find myself a lot more outgoing in those ways.
Yeah.
One thing for me where I really recognized much later in life of how much I had sheltered more or less locked away my inner child was ever since I never really enjoyed birthdays. Even when I was younger, I was never a birthday person. But
I
once I
see.
was
I
like,
still have a hard time with birthdays.
see, from 18 on, I never wanted one. I didn't want them. I didn't like them. I wanted nothing to do with
It
them.
was
Like
just another day.
it really
Yeah.
was. And it was so hard to even be joyful
Yeah.
around that moment. And a lot of it was because a lot of times it was just forgotten or neglected or nobody else cared about it but myself,
Yeah.
and and even at that point I was just like, whatever, at this point it's nothing to me. Well, what really kind of got me is like Sherry and the kids were very adamant about throwing me a birthday party, and I said no for so many years. Well, finally, about I think it was last year on my 42nd birthday, I finally said, "Go ahead, throw me a birthday party. Like we'll just
Yeah.
see what happens." And and it was good. It was actually really eye opening for me. It was a lot of fun. It was still really hard to be that center of attention for that
Yeah.
moment. And it wasn't because I've been the center of attention many times in my life, but it was never in an intimate moment where it was like a birthday. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was when I've gotten like graduated the police academy or gotten a promotion at work or I was in management.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize many times in my life. But when it came like to the intimacy part of myself or a partner, I have always struggled when it came to the emotions, when it came to allowing my inner child to have fun, or even
Yeah.
allowing my adult to have adult fun while letting the inner child go do whatever they're going to do. And so I found that struggle really big most of
Yeah.
my life. And even up until this point, I do find myself battling back and forth with that at moments too.
Yeah.
It's just something that we go through, but that disconnect is huge. And when we can recognize it, and we can be like, okay, I have to reconnect somehow. How am I going to reconnect? Is it through our kids? Is it through experiences? But that also only takes you what I have learned so far,
Yeah.
because you can play with your kids all you want. You can do all these things that you want. But until you truly give yourself something that your inner child wants to smile about, have fun with,
Yeah.
and what does that look like from my experience? If you wake up in the morning and you're so excited that you want to just do that one thing and you're willing to put off adult responsibilities to do that one thing, then that's your inner child saying, "This is what I want."
Yeah.
But it's that outer adult that we're like, okay, we still have to be responsible. I still have to do the adult things to reward my inner child to be able to do this. But sometimes I need to let the inner child go out and have fun before I can actually have the motivation to do the adult things.
Well, and I think it has to do a lot with number one, your comfort level with acknowledging and recognizing really your self-worth, that there's nothing that can diminish that. You have self-worth just because you exist. You have value just because you're alive and breathing, period. And
Yeah.
nothing changes that. And then the other half of it, like once you have that recognition, is making it okay to celebrate that, to take those moments and be like, okay, I've done my adulting, I've done my responsibility, now I get to play, I get to reward myself, and I can relate on the birthday issue because especially as a teenager and like early 20s, something inevitably always happened on my birthday. either like we just couldn't, or there was some catastrophic family emergency. And I was just like, am I cursed? Like, what the junk,
Yeah.
for reals. And so I got into this habit of it's just another day. It's not even important. Oh, yay, I'm 1 year older. What's so great about that? And it actually, and then also feeding into that, that discomfort with being seen and
Mm-hmm.
being held as important, because I didn't see myself as anything valuable or worthwhile or desirable or any of that. And I'd made a big deal out of my kids' birthdays, but mine was like, meh, what are you doing for your birthday? What? Why would I do something for that? It's just, and it took my husband and my best friend like shanghaiing me and going, no, this is your birthday, your day. We are doing something. So pick something. And
Right.
and we're going to make it happen. Usually it's going to the coast, because that's one of my favorite places ever, is the Pacific shoreline. But yeah, I kind of had to be shamed into it. And I still struggle with being comfortable making it about me. Like this year, we just kind of had a normal day at home. My kid had a doctor's appointment, so I had to drive him to a doctor's appointment. But I went to the store and I got some cake and ice cream, and I made what I wanted for dinner. And the kids, they were like, "Oh, you bought cake? Yay! That means you have to blow out candles." And I'm like, "Really? I don't want to see 39 candles on a cake. I'm gonna burn the house down." Like,
It's not a ritual. It's a birthday. We don't need
I,
candles.
I think I put like 2 candles. Like, I don't know. I put some weird small number of candles in the cake just so that I had something to blow out, make them happy. I was like, okay,
3 on
fine.
one side, 9 on another side.
I was like, all right, fine, I'll blow out the candles. But we sat at home, we watched a movie, we played video games, and then later on in the month, because now I make this joke about, well, hey, I'm the only June birthday in our little immediate circle here. So the whole month is mine. Like I'm just claiming it.
Right.
So I went camping with my friends at the end of June, and went to the coast and celebrated some more there. So, and it's not something that it has to be like super extravagant. It's just acknowledging, hey, this is my day, by golly.
And how much did you let your inner child run around while you were there?
While we were there, quite a bit. I got to be sarcastic and sassy. I did have some, insecurity and some like, oh my gosh, am I being too talkative? Am I oversharing? And then I'd go to my best friend and I'd be like, am I doing this? She's like, shut up, you're fine. So I had to deal with those little inner voices, but we went on these really gorgeous hikes, and I got to sit on the coast and journal, like right near the waterline, which is one of my absolute favorite things to do. Because if you don't know me, I have been a writer at soul since I was like 10 years old. My mom got called in to my 5th grade classroom because my teacher thought that I had plagiarized my creative writing assignment. Like, all she had to do was go check the library to see that there had never been a book series about Nancy Drew's little sister. I digress. But yeah, like I get to sit on the beach and I get to journal, and it was fun. Like it wasn't even anything fancy. It was just getting out of town and hanging out with my girlfriends, because I hadn't done that in a while and I loved it.
Right. And so because you were connected with your inner child, you did what she wanted to do, which was write.
Mhm.
Is that's what she wanted to do at such a young age. Like, I just want to write. I just want to do this.
Oh,
But
always.
and
I'm I'm
a lot of things we run into also is like there's those things that we desire and we inspire to
Mhm.
do. But then when we're told, oh, that won't make any money, or you can't make a living off doing that, then that suppresses the inspiration of the inner child to go after their passion or really pursue it. And you see that so
Yeah.
much, which is why I think like having birthdays is so important, right? Because like Lisa, she didn't have her first one until she was 32, and then another one at
Oh,
50. I really feel that and on so many levels, because
yeah.
I know when we were giving like putting on birthday parties for the kids or for Sherry, even in up until I actually accepted mine, I honestly didn't even care about anybody's birthday.
Yeah.
Here's the money. Go do what you're gonna do. Let me know when the cake and ice cream and the dinner's here.
Right. I
Otherwise,
don't
like,
usually do a party, but next year is the big 4-0. And so I did tell my husband and my sister, I was like, okay, next year, since it's one of those big anniversary number shifting birthdays, we can do
I'll
a
give
party. You
in,
know?
right? I do find myself now though, like excited for their birthdays and what we come up with. And yeah, one year Carly had a Barbie birthday party, and
How cute!
I really got into this because Sherry taught me how to sew, so I could sew Barbie clothes for her Barbies. And I sewed
Aw.
sweatpants, I sewed shirts, I sewed skirts. I even printed out tiny little Nike, Puma, and Under Armour and Adidas logos on the Cricut and heat pressed them to each one of those little tiny clothings for her birthday. And I also built a life size Barbie box out of cardboard and um, we wrapped it in like this pink wrap. And like Sherry built a Mattel Barbie logo and everything for it.
That
Um,
is so cool.
it was a lot of fun. It really was. And I think, let myself connect with my inner child because I could see how excited she was. And so I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, like this, it was amazing. So there are those few moments where I gave myself the opportunity to experience it with them, but
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I think like, it's different for those of us who don't have kids, but it's somewhere you have a friend that has children. And honestly, one of the best ways to start building that reconnection with yourself is to go and play with kids. Like, just
yeah,
let loose, forget about being an adult, completely submerge yourself in their reality and their perspective, and just have fun. Like, I
yeah,
took my kids to the lake up here nearby us on 4th of July. And my daughter is really into collecting like rocks and seashells and all kinds of stuff. And we were swimming in like this little lagoon that they have set up, because they don't let you swim in the lake because of the currents from the dam, but they have a
mm,
lagoon where you can go swimming. And so
nice,
and I'm still, that is one thing that I never grew out of, is I still collect seashells and all kinds of stuff when we when we go to the beach. I have a shoebox from high school that still has like all the shells that I collected as a kid. Um, and so, I'm playing in the water with my kids and like using my toes to pick up rocks off the bottom, because they're trying to find, these cool rocks in this water that really isn't all that clear, but it felt wonderful in triple digit weather. And so I'm like picking up rocks and going, oh, how about this one? How about this one? And I'm helping them like collect these little rocks. Or like the other night, or no, it was just last night, we played this game called Kids Against Maturity, which it's like a child's version of Cards Against Humanity. Now, mind you, over half the deck are butt and poop jokes, but
the best.
it's hysterical because, I mean, the audience. I have a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 15-year-old, and like they love it. Like, just finding the best body joke to insert into the prompt, you win. And so I get into it and I'm like, okay, I got to find something really ridiculous in these cards that I have that is just going to make them absolutely besides themselves. And watching them crack up about me throwing out these really weird prompts. Like, I think it was something about like, I think one of the ones last night was something about somebody in the closet, and I threw out a card that said John Cena, and the kids all started laughing about John Cena being in the closet, and they're like, who put John Cena? And I was like, me.
Oh, that sounds fun. I think my family would really like playing that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's as simple as like coloring. My daughter loves it when I sit down and color with her, or I do crafts. My younger two are all into like wanting to learn how to crochet, because I've been crocheting. That's something that I've started doing again, that I learned how to do when I was 10 years old and I loved it. So sometimes it's, you can use the children in your life to help you get into that mindset, and then you start remembering the things that you really did love and enjoy as a little kid, and you can find ways to pick it back up and start enjoying it again.
Yeah. Something that I've done with like Amara and Carly both is we will get a piece of paper and we'll either draw on it. So like I'll draw something and then pass it to her, and then Carly will draw
Mhm.
something on it and then pass it back and forth.
Oh,
We've
that's
also done
fun.
Yeah, we've also done it with painting too. So we'll
Mhm.
start a painting and then we'll just keep one time the three of us did it in a circle and we were passing it to
Aw.
each other. And it's funny what comes up. Like you don't expect the image that you're gonna come
Yeah.
out with. But it's not about it being perfect. It's not about it being, to the T and everything of like what art should be, but it's literally just having that little bit of fun of just pure creativity of seeing what
Oh,
somebody's going to
yeah.
come up with, right? So it was for me, a very fun moment. I think my inner child really enjoyed that, even though
Mhm.
my inner child doesn't really like, it's not really big on drawing in a lot of ways or other things like that, even though every now and then I do like to draw. I made a coloring book, like a voodoo doll coloring book, even, and I
Haha, that's
published
awesome.
it. It was cool. Uh, but
See, I
it,
cheat.
it
I
was
go
a
find the
phase.
coloring pages online and I just print them out and we go to town. Like,
It was when Sherry was making a bunch of coloring books, and I was like, I can get in on that. I can draw. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, that was cool. I'm done. And it's like drawing is just not my forte. It's really not. And even like painting and crafting, I like it every now and then, and it's really only if Sherry and everybody else is in it and they're doing it, and I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, all right, I'll jump in and play a little bit. But when it comes to like my inner child loved playing with GI Joes. I loved watching wrestling. I loved playing in the dirt, and I loved video
Yeah.
games. Like that was what my inner child really loved, and remote
Yeah.
control cars. And so it's like I'm sitting here trying to like make that connection again as an adult of like, okay, what do I really want? And what's funny is for the longest time, I I was, even as a child, was really into like cops and robbers and crime and everything like that, right? And
Mhm.
paranormal and ghosts and the dead, like that is always actually for the longest time. Those are the two things that would draw me into everything. The movies I watched, the cartoons, the games, all that. I love playing Resident Evil, one of my favorite games to play as a kid.
Mm.
uh like one night I was playing it when it first came out, the very first one on PlayStation, when you were like, "Oh,
Ooh.
graphics are amazing." Not
We look
compared to
at
these
them
days,
now and we're like, wow.
but compared to an Atari, they were freaking awesome. Like it's not a dot anymore,
It's not a done.
So one time I'm sitting there playing, and I'm playing Resident Evil, and I'm in the house, and I just killed the wolves that came in through the windows, and I'm like, okay. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this giant spider falls from the ceiling, and I'm like, oh shit! Like, and I'm like, I don't know, 11 or 12. It scared the shit out of me, So it was like those moments, though. I'm just like,
See, I'd have
that
woken
is
up
what
the
I
whole
enjoy.
house if a spider had fallen in my lap when I was super focused on a video game. That would have been it. It would have been over. The entire house would have been up,
Right?
and it possibly would have been burning down. Like,
Right at that same time that it fell, I heard a window crash, but the window breaking was in the game too. So it was like, and this dog comes around the corner, and I'm like, oh crap, zombie dog. So it's like that inner child in you is just like, I wanted to be spooked. I wanted to have fun. And it's like it's crazy because I wanted that when I was a kid, but now I'm not that. Like
yeah.
everybody tries to scare me. Like they'll sit in the dark around a corner for I couldn't tell you how long, waiting for me to come around, and they'll jump at me to scare me, and I don't even move. I'm just like, whatever, just keep moving through, and it's just like
Oh, see,
that.
I'm so easily startled. My kids thrive on jumping out and scaring the crap out of me.
They thrive on trying to.
Like my boys love startling me. In one of my kids' doctor's office, the hallway splits in like two directions. You can go through this room and come out into the lobby from another direction than the hallway. My daughter loves to take the long way around and try and startle me because she knows I'm expecting her to come out the hallway. And yeah, my boys are total gamers. So like if they want one-on-one time, it's like, Mom, come play Minecraft with me. Mom, let's play Genshin. Mom, let's do, and I'm like, all right, cool. My daughter, she likes video games every now and then. It's all about the arts and crafts. And then, they love it when I go outside and I go on the slip and slide with them, or I run in the sprinklers, or I jump in the pool and we pretend we're swimming like mermaids and we make up this huge whole fantastical story. And like over COVID, I taught them all about blanket forts. Now every weekend, somebody's room is full of a blanket fort.
That's awesome. Oh, we did blanket fort. We had bunk beds, so we were always making blanket forts when we were kids.
Mhm.
I grew up with two brothers, no sisters. So it was we didn't have to. we never experienced the feminine of a sister, so it was just
Oh,
kind of balls to the wall at my house all the time.
see, my poor brother had all sisters. So
Poor guy.
I
I can
have
see how that could
I
be.
have 2 brothers and 5 sisters. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
way outnumbered.
my brothers were always outnumbered.
Always. Dang. Uh,
Oh,
so
so we wanted to close out this episode and give you an opportunity to put into practice what we've been talking about and start building that reconnection with your inner child yourself. So we decided that we're going to put out a challenge for you guys. So we want you to find something fun to do that your inner child would have just absolutely delighted on. And we even went so far as to ask our own kids for some ideas to give to you guys. So gotta scroll up through my text messages. Wow, we talked a lot today.
yeah, we did.
We were working. Okay, so I asked my kids, I said, what would be some fun ways for an adult to either on their own or with their children reconnect with that childlike aspect of themselves? Some ideas that they gave out were coloring, arts and crafts. That was my daughter. Always, she has the soul of an artist. Is always about art, which I love. Another one was swimming, either like in the pool where you can pretend that you're a mermaid, or you can play Marco Polo or sharks and minnows, or one of those fun games that you're just splashing around and wailing on each other in the water. If you
Dragon
don't have
Karina.
water, get a slip and slide, run through the sprinklers, get wet somehow. It's summertime. The water is wonderful right now, especially if you're on the West Coast where we are and we're just melting.
That's my little. That's Carly.
Right.
She give her water, she'll be happy all day long. Good luck getting her out of the pool. Amara too,
Right.
really.
Another one was playing a board game, a children's board game, or a card game. Like we played Kids Against Maturity. Some other games that we really like playing is Mousetrap. My younger two love Mousetrap. Settlers of Catan. We've even been working on building some D&D characters so that we can start doing Dungeons and Dragons quests as a family. So
We've been talking about that too.
yeah,
So Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza is. Have you played that?
no, but we have Exploding Kittens, which is hilarious.
Oh, that's gotta be fun. Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. You have these cards of those, and you also have like a gorilla, a narwhal, and a groundhog in them. And so you lay them down in order, and when it lands on, if it's like taco, and you're like taco, and you put the card down because if they're all face down, you put it down. If it shows as a taco, y'all have to slap your hand on the card. So whoever lays their hand down first, you're getting slapped by hands all on top of it.
Hilarious. So it's kind of
So
like war, but in an
it's active.
expanded way. That sounds like
Yeah.
fun.
And then
That
if
sounds like
like
fun.
if a narwhal comes out, you have to like make the horn and then drop your hand. Or a gorilla, you got to pound your chest and drop the hand. So
Oh
it's
my gosh,
very active.
that sounds like a lot of fun.
I think
That
your
does
kids
sound
would
like a
really
lot of fun.
like it.
They would. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to teach me that one because I think that they would find that hysterical.
So many times you make a mistake, you see the groundhog come out and you're like, oh, and you're like, God damn it, it was a groundhog.
Oh my gosh. Slapjack. Yes, Lisa, that's an excellent one. And diamond paintings. So, oh gosh, I love diamond paintings. They're so much fun. Another one was karaoke. Put on like some Disney music, or like my kids are really into 90s music because my husband and I have been introducing them into like 90s, early 2000s music. So it's both nostalgic and strange to hear them singing in Sync and Backstreet Boys, especially after the most recent Trolls movie came out. And they're like, Mom, why did you never introduce us to this? Well, son, because I never thought Justin would get back with the group. That's why.
JT was phased out.
Right? But, like find some fun music and sing out loud. Dress up, like put on an outfit that just makes you feel funny or playful or energetic or curious. Like, dress up to match how that kid inside of you is looking to feel for the day.
Yeah.
Blanket forts.
Megan Force. My when my brother was here visiting, he brought his. My brother's 40. He'll be 45 in August. His daughter came with him and her kids. So my brother's grandkids. He's 44 and he's a grandpa. So, uh, best of luck to him on that one. But when they were here, the his grandkids are 2 and 4, and the 4-year-old, man, he's got some energy in him. But he loves Ninja Turtles, and I'm like, man, I love Ninja Turtles too.
Oh,
Like, one of my
yes.
favorite things when I was a kid. I used to go to the arcade just to play the Ninja Turtle game. I dropped so many quarters in that game. But he was here, and he was so energetic and playful that I started playing with him. I started roughhousing with him, and so it was like, then all of a sudden he's like, "You're Shredder," and I'm like, "All right, I'll be Shredder." So for like 30
Of
minutes,
course, you're the bad guy.
of course, I'll be the bad
You
guy.
have to have the nemesis. Like, you can't make believe if you don't have the nemesis to spar off against. It's just a vital component.
You have to. And when you're the child, you want to be the hero. You don't want to be the
Always,
villain. Of
always.
course. So, so we spent like 30 minutes running around the house, and I was just Shredder, being Shredder for him. And it was fun. And I eventually had to, like, I gotta take a break, bro. Like, I gotta sit for a minute. I'm old. Give me a second here. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I really got to connect with my inner child in those moments too, because it brought me back to being with my brothers and
Yeah.
playing Ninja Turtles with them and just having fun
Hmm.
in those areas. So it was like kind of nostalgic for me in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
just not caring because when I was doing that, my parents were in their living room, my brother was in the living room, his daughter was in the living room, and here I am, 43 years old, rolling around acting like Shredder through
Heck
the whole
yeah.
entire house, right?
Heck
Oh,
yeah.
like
That's awesome.
nobody in my house is connected to their inner child, by the way. I can tell you that right now. So it took a lot for me to express that in that way. But what I also realized, and I think this is extremely important for everyone to hear this, when you connect with your inner child and you're around those that don't, they're not going to take you serious as an adult.
They don't have to.
They won't. And so it's important to realize and understand, I don't care what you think. I don't care if you think I'm mature. I don't care if you think I am an actual
Yeah.
adult or not. It doesn't matter. I'm enjoying my life. Like, I am only here one time. I want to enjoy it from this moment till the end, because Lord knows I didn't enjoy my first 30 years.
Right.
I didn't,
Right.
and I started when I got with Sherry and with Carly, and I started learning myself through my 30s. I enjoyed my 30s as much as I could as an adult, but I still never enjoyed it as a child. But now here I am in my 40s trying to explore my inner child, letting my inner child
Yeah.
come out, letting them have fun. And then I see the adults around me angry because I'm not being adultish enough. I'm not doing this to their expectations. I'm not running out and doing this, and I'm not meeting these expectations because you're immature, or so they have this perspective on you. So
Yeah.
remember that as you're connecting with your inner child, do not let others that are so disconnected from their inner child be the cause of you locking your child back in your room.
Because it's not about them. It's about
It's not.
you.
It is. And this is your life. It's your journey. It's our journey. And that's the one thing I've been having to remind myself of constantly over the last 6 months of being in the environment that I'm currently in, with the uh, companionships that we're currently with. I've been having to learn that and understand that and remind myself of that. I know who I am. I know the journey that I'm on. I know where I'm going. Just because you don't see my vision doesn't mean it's a wrong vision.
And we
It's
don't
not.
have to be grown-ups all the time.
No. And it's
Where's
not.
the fun in that? It's part of being
Exactly.
mindful and present and living in the moment and enjoying the small things.
Yeah. Don't let others live your life for you, because when you lock your inner child away, you are now letting others live your life for you and tell you what you should and shouldn't like in life. If
And
you
you're
enjoy if you enjoy something that somebody else is like, why? Well, because I do.
because
It
I like
doesn't matter. You don't have to
it.
understand it. You don't have to like it, but I do. Why is it wrong because I enjoy something that you don't?
I'm almost 40 and I still watch anime and I love it. I play video
Yeah.
games after the kids go to bed because that's my time and I love it. It's okay. If you lock that part of yourself away, you're missing out on an entire aspect of experiencing your life that makes it so much fun. And
It's
who
true.
doesn't want to have fun?
When we were at the library today, Carly wanted to get some books, so we went into the kids section and she started reading the Babysitters Club's books.
I used to love the Babysitters Club. I read like almost all of them. I don't remember any of them now, but I know I read them all at one time.
There's new ones that are like graphic novels now.
Are they really? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, so it's like perfect for your tweens, right? And she also found it on Netflix too. But when she found those, she's like, "Oh, look, there's like 3 or 4 of them." So she got them all because she reads them fast.
Nice.
Well, while she was looking through them, I found some graphic novels were of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So
Oh,
little Josh is like, "Oh, we taking some of these too." So
heck yeah. Oh
I
my
grabbed
gosh.
3 of them, and they're in a series of like, and one of them was like book 1, book 2, book 3. I'm like, "Well, I'm just taking them all 3, and I'll save those for
Nice.
later."
If you haven't
So
yet, you need to go watch the Netflix live action remake of Last Airbender. Oh,
I started watching it.
mind blowing.
I
It was
started
so
watching
good.
it, but nobody else wants to see it. So I have to find a time to watch it when it's just me.
Oh,
Because
see,
the
it's
kids are
so
like,
worth it.
"This is cheesy. I don't
It's
want to
so
see
worth it.
this." And I'm like, This is like,
And Lisa,
no way."
girl, I'm with you. I'll be in the kitchen cooking dinner and I am dancing with no rhythm ridiculously and singing with my headphones in. And my kids laugh at me and I don't care. I'm having fun. I'm like, hey, I'm cooking dinner. I'm happy. Leave me alone.
Do you want to eat? Do you want love in your food?
Right?
Let
Do you
me.
want food?
I can cook angry food if you want.
But yeah, find something, challenge yourself that within the next 2 weeks, you're going to find something either that you've been wanting to do that you never got the chance to do, or something that you once enjoyed that you just haven't done in a while, and let that little kid in you out to play and have some fun. And then when
Even
we
if it's
come
a
back in 2 weeks, we want to hear about it and we'll check in with you guys about what we did to keep working on our connection too.
Absolutely. And even if it's just a book that the younger you would have enjoyed. Like it can be, because a lot of times, a lot of the society that we're in, it's like I can't just go out and buy something for my inner child. Like I can't justify spending
Why
the money
not?
on that. It's like, well, it's either we eat or I go do this, right? So it's like I know a lot of us are in that, like a lot of people are in that position where it's tough. So don't
We
use that as an excuse to not do it though. Find ways that you can, you know our library has many different things that they put on for kids. They did an egg drop the other day. When I showed up, they were like, "Dad, you're doing one too," because we have an adult section for it. So it was like, "Oh, awesome." So we did egg drops, and Carly actually won first place and I won first place, which was awesome.
Plus the
That
best
we
part is like the activities at the library are free. And if you have a son or daughter or a grandchild or a niece or nephew or even just your friend's kid, like you're the unofficial auntie, like take them to the
take them.
library, and the adults at the library are like, dude, come join in, come
Yeah.
play, come have fun. Like it's not just for the kids. It can be a lot of fun. They do some really cool activities.
And if
So
you take your niece or nephew, just also pay attention to how different they are when they're with just you and their parents aren't around. You'll see a
yeah.
whole different way of them because you're building this other trust in them. And what's important is you're giving them an avenue to go to somewhere, right? Because as kids, there's sometimes we're like, I don't know if I can go tell my parents that, or like, yee, right? So it's like they need that avenue of somewhere else to go. So sometimes having that aunt or uncle that they can come to where you can break the news to their parents for them, is also important for children to have within their life. It's that support
Yeah.
system.
And even if you don't think that it's something that you're capable of, because let's be honest, our adult bodies are not always as cooperative as our childhood bodies. There's always a way around it. So get
Yeah.
creative. How can you figure out to do that one thing that you just feel drawn to? I mean, even if you're roller skating with a cane, have fun. Like
Do what you gotta do, break the other hip.
borrow somebody's walker. That's what I'd do.
Like just find
They
ways to
have
enjoy
those.
it.
They have those at like the ice skating rink. They have these little things that you can use so that you do not fall on your butt. and
It's like
break yourself
bowling. It's like bowling with the walls up.
with bumpers.
With bumpers, yeah.
bowling,
Yeah.
bowling with bumpers. I will be completely transparent. I have to have the bumpers. I can't bowl. I also have to have the thingy that you put the ball on and you push it down and it rolls it down the aisle for you because I have fibromyalgia. And if I try and lift that ridiculously heavy bowling ball, I will crack myself in half. So it is totally possible to have fun with accommodations, folks.
See, then what's important is if you weren't connected to your inner child, then you would never do that. You would just sit aside and be like, "Yeah, I'll keep score, and I'm not going to do any. I'm not going to enjoy the activity itself." But you're like, "Yeah, well, this is me. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I got.
Sometimes
I
I
still want
do
this
that
activity."
because we like to go bowling. And so sometimes, like, I'm not physically capable of bowling with everyone else, but I help keep score and I'm cheering them on and giving tips and being
Yeah,
like, yeah, get those pins, knock them down. Like, just being goofy
yeah.
and weird and making everybody laugh. It's just about engaging. It's
But
about
when you
coming
right,
out of your shell, coming out of your comfort zone, and just engaging.
but when you want to bowl, you're like, "All right, ramp out, bumpers up. Here we go."
Right? Give me that ramp, throw those bumpers up. Let's do this. You're going down. Oh, so in 2 weeks, we're going to have our next episode and we're going to do parenting in the technological age because, oh my gosh, things have definitely changed from the time that we were kids and
Yeah.
parenting with video game systems and phones and tablets and social media. It is a whole different ball game. So join us
It,
about that conversation and about how we're handling that arena. And we would love to hear some of your stories about how that's going for you, challenges that you've come across, successes that you've had. Let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah, we would love to share your stories or your experiences in itself on the show as well. So that way it's not just our view, our perspective, but everybody is also able to get in there, tell their story because sometimes you need to be able to tell your story, right?
Right.
And so we would love to share those so everybody else can see. We all go through these same things. It might be a little bit of a different experience, but it's the same hurdles and obstacles that we all face.
And if you have a story that you'd like to share or a topic for an episode that you'd like to suggest, you can send us an email. Both of our emails are listed in the description below. You can also hit us up on any of our socials. Also, pretty quick here, we are going to be creating a Facebook community just for our podcast listeners where we'll throw out prompts and challenges and special events centered around reconnecting with your inner child and bonding with your children and the children in your life through that experience. So look out for announcements for that because that'll be another place where you can share and tell your stories and your experiences and connect with others who are on the same journey. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be awesome. And as we're kind of ramping up this new journey of ours, we've also talked about workshops in the future as well, reconnecting with your inner child, just self growth, personal growth. Those things that we face on a regular day to day basis that sometimes we have deeper struggles with.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at finding that true north in your life, in finding the inner compass of yourself, then Megan and I both have we work with others on that individual basis through one-on-one mentorship or coaching, and we help you explore the deeper parts of yourself that you have been hesitant and scared to go into for a very long time. And we've all been through that. And so if you are looking to have a more fulfilling and empowered energy, you within your life, then don't hesitate to book a one-on-one with either one of us. You can email me at soulifestudios@gmail.com. There's also a link in my YouTube bio that'll take you straight to our link tree. It'll have more information on it. I know.
Our link, both of our link trees are also in the description below, and you can book a free consultation with Josh, or you can book a free strategy session on my website and explore like what you want to build and what you want to create for your life and your experience here.
Yeah. And I came across this. I was looking up at like coaching and things like that, and I came across this thing. I love Chat GPT. It, it brought
It's our
up.
new toy, and we're very excited about it.
It's cut back so much work for me, but it brought up the title of personal developing mentor, and I was like,
Ooh.
I like that. It was like that actually really resonates with it because it's you are developing your own person
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the journey that you go on with us, and we're mentoring you down these journeys, and it's really just shining highlighting and shining those areas of yourself to dive into to really find the best version of you, the happiest version of you, the joyful version of you, while still being in that mindset of, you might feel depressed, you might feel anxious, you might feel sad, you might not be feeling your best, but it's how do I get to those moments where I can take that and transmute it into something that's growth in my life. Not, oh, I had to learn a lesson, but how do I grow from this? How do I become better from this? How do I no longer hold me back from the journey that I'm on? And that's where Megan and we walk you down that. We don't do it for you. We walk you down that journey. So, but you have to be ready to put 100% in yourself in order to see the results that you're truly looking for. Because until you can take accountability with your own personal self and situation and awareness, you're just going to stay on that same cycle and not really
Right.
grow.
Because it's never too late to rise from those ashes and really take hold of your life and step out of survival mode or wherever you've been existing that you're unhappy with and learn how to fully live your life and fully engage and build the things that you've always wanted for yourself. But it's not something that someone else can do for you. So we help you build the roadmap to that very personalized destination that you're wanting to get to.
Yeah. The one thing I've learned is when we get stuck in life, it's not because we don't have the answers. It's because we don't know the right questions to ask to know the answer. Because the chances are we already know the answer. We just don't know what questions to ask ourselves to pull the answer from our own data bank to give us that guidance. So it's not about getting the answers or being given the answers, but it's about being asked the right questions for you to answer it yourself to realize, oh yeah, this is where I'm at. This is what I need to take accountability for, recognition with. I need to validate myself. I need self-love, whatever it might be. It's about finding it within yourself so you can give it to you. So you're not looking for others to give you what you think you need and desire.
It's building that solid foundation within yourself so that you can take your goals and you can take your dreams and you can actively break them down into manageable stepping stones that may help you to continue making progress forward, even when you stumble and biff it a little bit. Because we all
Exactly.
do. No goal goes exactly the way that it's planned, but sometimes it's in the deviations from the plan that you find out where you're really supposed to be.
Yeah. It's never a perfect situation. It's never a perfect environment. So you can train all day long. And I learned this in the academy. They trained us in perfect case scenarios. Not a single call on the street went exactly how it went in the academy. None of them. They all deviated. And
No plan ever goes exactly the way that you think it's
no,
going to, but it's about taking stock of how it has gone and re-examining it and going, okay, I can still get there, but I have to do it this way, or I'm going to do it this way instead of how I'd planned it before.
yeah, exactly. And there was times I had questions for him and I would ask our instructors certain things and they would literally turn to me and they'd be like, yeah, you'll learn that when you get out on the street. And it's like, well, but why? And it's their answer was there's so many possibilities that I could answer that question with, that none of them is going to give you the absolute accurate answer of what you're looking for.
The
You have
variables
to,
are endless.
exactly, you have to experience it. And it was like, oh, well, that makes sense. I have to experience this to understand this. And that's life. I have to experience life to understand life. But I might not always know what's coming. But if I understand what I'm doing and who I am, I'll be able to navigate it. I'm not going to say handle it, but I'll be able to navigate it to the best of my ability.
It's Earth School. We are all enrolled in Earth School.
Earth School, toughest school there is. And
But
it's all,
so worth it.
which is all about learning emotions, which is comes from your inner child. Your inner child is your emotions. So that's important to remember.
Thanks
But
for hanging out with us tonight. We had a lot of fun. If you're catching us on the replay, then we hope that you will join us in 2 weeks on the 25th. We will be back. And stay tuned for announcements on our socials about the Facebook community and some other things that we've got in the works for you guys. And we will see you soon.
can't wait.
Have a good night, everybody.